Alright, let's talk about graphing points in 4 quadrants. So, when you first learned about graphing, all you really saw was this part of the graph. It's kind of like a L or something. And everything was positive. So, to the right was positive and to the up was positive. And then you learned about negative numbers. So, negative numbers involve basically the rest of the graph. So, that blue part that I sectioned off there, that was the first thing you learned, so that's considered the first quadrant. And quadrants are named with Roman numerals. So, and then we go counterclockwise naming these. So the second quadrant is going to be to the left, then the third quadrant, and then the fourth quadrant. So like I said, once you got past the first quadrant, we started working with negatives. So let's put some points on this graph and locate these points. So we'll call this A, B, C, and D. So A, we're going to 4 on our x-axis and 3 on our y-axis. So x always comes before y. So it would be at 4, 3. And the way you can always think about that, x comes before y. If you do your ABCs, it's x, y, z. X becomes before y. So your x, which is always horizontal, comes before y, which is vertical. Alright, so if we look at B, so B is at -6, +6. -6, +6 for B. C is at -3, -2. And then D is at +3, -5. Alright, and I want you to notice something when we're doing these. So, quadrant 1 we talked about, everything was positive in quadrant 1. So, anytime you have an ordered pair that's in quadrant 1, it's going to be positive, positive. Quadrant 2, your x is going to be negative, your y is going to be positive. Quadrant 3, both of them are going to be negative. X and y will both be negative. And then quadrant 3, x will be positive and y will be negative. So that kind of helps you knowing which quadrant you're in. If you see a negative x and a positive y, you know you're going to be quadrant 2. If you see a positive x and a negative y, you know you're going to be quadrant 4. So let's plot a couple points based on an ordered pair. So let's say A is 3, -2. B is -4, 1. C is 0, 5. And D is -3, 0. So I threw in a couple zeros though just so we can see what's going on with those. So A is at x +3, y -2. So we're going to go 3 along your x-axis in a positive direction, and then 2 down, because down is negative. So A would be at 3, -2. B is at -4, +1. So we're going to go 4 left on our x and 1 up on our y. So B is right there. C is at 0, 5. So I'm not going to go anywhere on my x-axis. I'm just going to go up to 5. So that is C. And D is at -3, 0. So I'm going to go left 3, and I'm not going to go up or down. So D is going to be right there. So you'll notice that C and D, they're on an axis. So that means they're not in a quadrant. So if you're on the x or y axis, you're not in a quadrant. You're just on the axis. And then one more, and a special one, and that's if we're at 0, 0. And that's considered the origin. You're going to hear that. So everything's based on the origin. Let's call that E. So the origin is E.